Some emergency situations will also be as a result of work or task related. We will now look at falling from heights, excavations, fire and burns, as well as different serious injuries. Working at heights means working in any place where, if precautions were not taken, a person could fall a distance liable to cause personal injury. This means that you are working at height if you are working above ground or floor level, could fall from an edge through an opening or fragile surface, or you could fall from ground level in an opening in a floor or a hole in the ground. When it comes to working at height, we must remember to ensure there is a proper fall protection plan in place. Although this is generally discussed in the construction regulations, no matter where a plumber is working at height, we need to ensure that all precautionary measures are taken to ensure that all work at height is done safely. Let us have a look at some of the precautions as laid out in Construction Regulation 10 for fall protection. A competent person is to be responsible for the preparation of a fall protection plan. Risk assessments of all work carried out from a full risk position, as well as the procedures and methods used to address all risks, must be identified per location. The process for the evaluation of an employee's medical fitness necessary to work at a full risk position, as well as having the records thereof. There should be a program for the training of employees working from a full risk position, as well as have records of those. There should also be a procedure for addressing the inspection, testing and maintenance of all fall protection equipment. And finally, a fall protection plan must include a rescue plan detailing the necessary procedure, personal and suitable equipment required to effect a rescue of a person in the event of a fall incident, to ensure that the rescue procedure is implemented immediately following the incident. This fall protection plan, as well as the rescue plan, can also make up part of your emergency management procedure. Since falling from height may constitute an emergency, this rescue plan must be specific to the site as well as the task being performed. Then, make sure everybody working at height knows and understands what these procedures are to prevent incidents and accidents from happening. As a plumber, you might need to work on a roof. Where roof work is being performed on a construction site, the contractor must ensure that in addition to the requirements set out in Sub-Regulation 2 and 4 of Construction Regulation 10, it is indicated in the fall protection plan that the roof work has been properly planned, the roof erectors are competent to carry out the work, no employee is permitted to work on roofs during inclement weather conditions or any other conditions that are hazardous to health and safety of the employee. All coverings to openings and fragile materials are of sufficient strength to withstand any imposed loads. There should be suitable and sufficient platforms, coverings, or other similar means of support to be provided and be used in such a way that the weight of any person passing across or working on or from fragile material is supported. And lastly, suitable and sufficient guardrails, barriers, toe boards, or other similar means of protection to prevent, as far as is reasonably practicable, the fall of any person, material, or equipment. Although you might not be responsible for erecting the actual roof as a plumber, if you, along with other contractors, are working on a roof, please ensure you adhere to these safety precautions as well for your specific scope. At some point, a plumber may need scaffolding in order to perform their works. If you are on a construction site, Construction Regulation 16 says of scaffolding, every contractor using access scaffolding shall ensure that such scaffolding, when used, complies with the safety standard incorporated for this purpose into these regulations under Section 44 of the Act. Since it here refers to the OHSS Act under Section 44, please know that even if you are not on a construction site, all scaffolding must conform to SANS 18885. All contractors on a construction site must ensure that all scaffolding work operations are carried out under the supervision of a competent person who has been appointed in writing, and that all scaffold erectors, team leaders and inspectors are competent to carry out their work. Please remember that there are more than 20 different types of scaffolding. It is important that whatever type of scaffold you use, that you ensure that a knowledgeable person has checked it before you get on it. In order to prevent incidents and accidents from escalating into emergencies, there are always procedures for any type of work that we do. Here, when we are looking at ladders, every plumber must ensure that they adhere to the General Safety Regulations 13A for ladders. It states, an employee shall ensure that every ladder is constructed of sound material and is suitable for the purpose for which it is used, as well as being fitted with non-skid devices at the bottom ends and hooks or similar devices at the upper ends of the stiles, which shall ensure the stability of the ladder during normal use, or it is so lashed, held, or secured whilst being used as to ensure the stability of the ladder under all conditions and at all times. No employer may permit a ladder which is required to be leaned against an object for support be used which is longer than 9 meters. When work is done from a ladder, the employer shall take special precautionary measures to prevent articles from falling off, and provide suitable sheaths or receptacles in which hand tools shall be kept when not being used. Your work may even call for a mobile elevated work platform. The definition of a cradle means a platform enclosed on all sides but open at the top, designed for the purpose of raising and lowering persons by means of a lifting machine. These could be things like cherry pickers, scissors lifts, or even a man cage. Please know that a safety harness must always be used when operating any mobile elevated working platform. Adhere to the safe working load and never operate a mobile elevated working platform without a license. Another area where there is a high possibility of falling from or through is in ceilings. When planning to work inside a ceiling, there are many hazards that we might be exposed to. Unsafe access, the working at heights, electricity, confined spaces, rodents or reptiles such as snakes, high temperatures, sharp objects in roof trusses and ceiling joints, as well as the location of water pipes and electrical wiring. When working in ceilings, it is imperative to mitigate the dangers. So, you must ensure that you have safe access. According to your General Safety Regulations 13A, the ladder must be safe to use. It must be inspected and correct for the type of application. Always allow for full access through the opening of the ceiling, at least 900 millimeters past the access gap. It should also be set up to create a stable support when climbing up or down the ladder, and always allow for hands-free working while on the ladder. Make sure that the ladder is set up to allow for a person to climb the ladder and step off into the ceiling, as shown in the picture on the left. The ladder must not be damaging any ceiling boards or the surrounding area. The plumber can have 3 points of contact with the ladder and easily access or egress the ceiling. The ladder must be positioned at an angle that is safe and creates a stable platform. An additional employee can be stationed below and hold the ladder in place to create more support. Never carry anything in your hands while climbing up or down a ladder. If you cannot see it, then you cannot improve it. Insufficient lighting when working inside a ceiling is a major cause of injuries and poor installations. Depending on your scope of work, you will either have dust accumulation in the ceiling that you can be exposed to, or if you need to drill or grind inside the ceiling, you will create dust. This will lead to difficulty of breathing, an obstructed view, or exposure to biological hazards. First, do an inspection. Get all the information so that you can properly protect yourself and others in that working environment. Although this might be part of your safe working procedures, please remember that you need to know and understand how work is done in order to ensure your emergency management procedures match up to protecting the employees. When preparing your emergency plan, please remember to have legal documentation in place. Each hazard needs to be understood and the risk assessed. In other words, if you know that you need to climb into a ceiling, you know that you will need to have a safe ladder for access and egress, as well as adequate lighting inside the ceiling. You will be exposed to dust and limited foot space where you can stand. It also may be very low or cramped. It is best practice to develop a proper safe operating or safe working procedure for these individual activities so that the safest and least risky method may be used. It could save your life. Although it is our last form of control, PPE is still mandatory and must be chosen and worn correctly. So ask yourself, what do you need protection from? Check the risk assessment and also do research on what type of PPE is needed for the job. Get more than just one quote and then research the PPE on that quote. If necessary, you may need to amend the risk assessment for the right type of PPE. Make sure that all employees are trained on the use, care, and disposal of PPE. And you must have inspections, registers, and checklists for your PPE. Remember, PPE protects you, so look after it. Every year, around the world, employees are involved in injuries from falling. These include short-term and long-term injuries, paralysis, and even death. It only takes a few moments to plan and prepare for the work you are going to do. Don't let the rest of your life be affected by a few seconds of being unsafe. A fall from height can kill you. Another area of emergency management may be the need to prepare for confined spaces. A confined space is an enclosed area where there is a risk of death or dangerous injury because of hazardous substances or dangerous conditions. Enclosures with limited openings, such as drains, sewers, tanks, and silos, are confined spaces. These are often places that are not usually entered by people, but may need to be during maintenance work or inspections. During construction work, some areas may become confined spaces due to the work being carried out. For example, within trenches, unventilated rooms, or building voids. Let us now have a look at 7 major hazards that you may need to prepare for in your emergency management. The first one is lack of oxygen. Oxygen can be removed from the atmosphere within a confined space through naturally occurring reactions. A reaction between certain soils and the oxygen, or groundwater and chalk, or limestone, can produce carbon dioxide, which displaces oxygen. Rust forming inside the tanks can also create a lack of oxygen. A second type of hazard comes from gases, fumes, and vapors. Poisonous gases and fumes can build up within a confined space, especially where there is a lack of ventilation. Deadly gases can leak into the confined space, for example through a burst gas pipe or from contaminated land. Or they may be created from the work being carried out, such as welding, using adhesives, or paint fumes. Without extraction or ventilation, these gases and fumes can create a toxic atmosphere within the confined space. A third type of danger is flooding. Liquids can quickly flood a confined space, particularly in drainage or sewer work, trapping and potentially drowning those within. And it's not just liquids you should worry about. Solids can also flood confined spaces. For example, in trench collapses, those within the trench are at risk of being trapped or buried. Confined spaces can be small, so flooding can occur in a matter of seconds, leaving no time to escape. The fourth hazard is dust. Dust can build up within a confined space, either naturally occurring or through the activity being carried out, such as drilling or grinding. Excessive dust inhalation causes respiratory problems, and hazardous dust can be fatal. Dust buildup can also increase fire explosion risk, especially where there is a lack of ventilation. Fire and explosions are our fifth hazard. Flammable vapors, liquids, gases, and dust within the confined space can all increase the risk of fire and explosions. The risk is increased further where any hot works or tools which can spark are used within the confined space. Remember how a lack of oxygen was number 1 on our list? Well, too much oxygen is also bad. Excessive oxygen levels increase the risk of fire and explosions. In the event of a fire emergency, ensure you have the necessary fire safety equipment. This could include a fire alarm or emergency alarm, first aid equipment, firefighting equipment, fire escape route drawings, as well as the location of emergency equipment. All employees must know and understand what the procedure is during a fire emergency. Our sixth hazard could be temperature related. Strenuous work, hot works, or naturally occurring hot conditions can lead to a dangerous increase in body temperature. This can quickly become a real problem within a confined space that is hard to escape from at the best of times. Heat can rapidly rise due to the enclosed nature of a confined space. This could lead to heat stroke, exhaustion, and collapse. Our seventh hazard are access restrictions. Confined spaces are also dangerous because they can be difficult to access. This makes escape or egress difficult and also hinders any emergency rescue. Once you are inside a confined space, there may not be a quick or easy way out. So, it is important to know what work can be carried out safely before you enter, and then the necessary emergency arrangements must be in place. Many plumbers may need to dig or work in or around excavation and trenching. Excavation hazards are common in the plumbing industry. These plumbers are more than twice as likely to be killed as workers in any other type of construction work. Excavations and trenches are unstable by nature, and many types of serious hazards exist when doing this type of work. Cave-ins are a type of caught-between risk. Cave-ins can suffocate or crush workers. Hazardous atmospheres can kill or injure workers, such as having oxygen deficiencies, flammable gases, or toxic gases. Workers can drown in water, sewage, or chemicals if these haven't been controlled by diverting them elsewhere or locking them out to prevent the exposure to the worker. Workers can face burns, electrocution, or explosions while working in or around various underground utilities such as steam, hot water, gas, as well as electricity. The danger of cave-ins is very real. Cave-ins occur when the soil is unstable, when there is a lot of vibration from nearby trains, trucks, traffic, or even machinery, or even when there is too much weight too close to the sides of the excavation. This could be from the excavated material itself, from tools, equipment, materials, or even vehicles located on the site. When there is too much water in the excavation, or when there are changes in the weather. When ensuring that our management plan for emergencies is going to be effective, we always need to reference what laws govern certain work. For excavations, you might want to look at these 3 pieces of legislation: the Construction Regulation 13, the General Safety Regulation Section 13, as well as the General Safety Regulations Section 5, as sometimes excavations can be considered a confined space. Plumbers may also be exposed to electricity-related hazards, such as fire and burns. Electricity is the flow of electrical power or charge. It is a secondary energy source, which means that we get it from the conversion of other sources of energy, like coal, natural gas, oil, nuclear power, and other natural sources, which are called primary sources. While any amount of current over 10 milliamps is capable of producing painful to severe shock, currents between 100 and 200 milliamps are lethal. Geysers, hydroboils, pumps, and others all use energy. Plumbers may be exposed to electricity-related hazards before the installation, during testing, or even when performing inspections. All plumbers should know and understand the danger of energy sources and the potential for serious injuries and even death. Whether you are doing your own electrical work or not, it is vital to ensure that all energy sources are isolated or locked out before work can start on energized plumbing. Identify the potential live energy source. Then isolate, lock, and tag out energy sources. Remember that all electrical works must take place by a qualified and approved electrician. Inform everyone of the dangers of the energy source by means of toolbox talks, risk assessments, and signage. Sometimes you will need energy to perform a site setup. In this case, identify the least hazardous energy source and control the area to ensure it can function. Most often, electricity is needed for the installation of plumbing, like the use of drills, grinders, or extension cords. In this case, all power tools must be kept in a safe-to-use condition. The potential for electrocution must be eliminated by ensuring that all tools conform to standards for the specific tool. All power tools must be placed onto a register and have a checklist specific to the tool being used. Only competent employees may use portable electrical tools. Inspect your power tool before use. Maintain it as per the manufacturer's instructions, and always check that you have the correct power tool for the task. Remember, if it is not battery operated, the power tool that you are using is not the source of energy. It may need to be plugged into something first. So make sure that where you are getting your energy from is also safe and free from the risk of electrocution to you or others. The potential for electrocution by energizing plumbing is very high when you are now testing the installation. It is important to check all connections before removing your isolations to ensure that there is no loose or exposed wiring. When doing an inspection, treat it as high-risk work, since you will now be exposing yourself to an energized piece of equipment that has not yet been tested as safe. A major cause of injuries among plumbers is the lack of safety during an inspection. The inspection is done to either quote a client or check if the work has been done correctly. In the mind of a plumber, this is not a risk as no work is being performed. But don't fool yourself or think that hazards and risks do not appear until manual labor is being done. Since the condition of any installation is essentially unknown, you should treat the risks as if they are already present until you establish otherwise. Remember that electricity is a silent killer. While any amount of current over 10 milliamps is capable of producing a painful to severe shock, currents between 100 and 200 milliamps are lethal. Plumbers are also at risk of scalding. The definition of scalding is a form of thermal burn resulting from heated fluids such as boiling water or steam. Most scalds are considered first or second degree burns, but third degree burns can result, especially with prolonged contact. Ensure that your emergency management covers the need for training and education, anti-scald valves, thermostatic temperature valves, as well as planning and prevention of such incidents. SANS 10252-1 Clause 6613 reads as follows: wherever water is heated, the energy supply to each heater shall be under effective thermostatic control. In severe circumstances, a poor plumbing installation may even result in serious injury or death. For example, an incorrectly installed geyser or hot water storage vessel could explode and harm occupants inside a building. A faulty installation could also cause severe burns. Bear in mind that hot water of 60 degrees Celsius can result in a serious scald in about 5 seconds. Have you ever complained about knee or back injury? This could be due to work or task-related ergonomic hazards. According to the International Ergonomics Association, ergonomics is the scientific discipline concerned with the understanding of interactions among human and other elements of a system, and the profession that applies theory, principles, data, and methods to design in order to optimize human well-being and overall system performance. To put it simply, ergonomics is the process of designing or arranging workplaces, products, and systems so that they fit the people who use them. The goal of ergonomics is to create a safe, comfortable, and productive workspace by bringing human abilities and limitations into the design of a workspace. Plumbers are at risk of ergonomic-related hazards because of awkward postures, bending, compression or contact stress, forceful exertions, insufficient rest breaks, lifting, lighting, noise, pushing, pulling, reaching, repetitive motion, static or sustained postures, temperature extremes, and vibration. This is why it is so important to have an ergonomic risk assessment. Understand the ergonomic workplace risk. Make sure that you know the task or activity related physical factors, the cognitive risk factors, the environment related factors, the technology or tool related factors, as well as the organizational risk factors. There should be an easy reporting of potential ergonomic risks by employees to the employer. There should also be a risk map and priority listing. Always ensure that this form of control develops specific countermeasures to help each ergonomic risk. Then make sure that you monitor and review the risk assessment to ensure that it is adequate and compliant to regulations. Injuries resulting from bad ergonomics are preventable. The benefits of good ergonomic practices range from reducing business cost, improving quality, and creating a better safety culture at work. Employees performing tasks under bodily stress can lead to ailments that cost your business money. While the costs associated with ergonomics, like special chairs and workstations, can seem like a barrier at first, the long-term results are healthier and more productive employees, which are best for business. By utilizing good ergonomic practices, you can reduce your company's costs associated with lost work time in the short term and workers' compensation in the long term. Ergonomics improves productivity. When employees are in pain, they focus on those pains, not their work. Studies have shown that the greater the pain, the more productivity plummets. Properly set up workstations can create happier employees. A comfortable workstation, allowing good posture and fewer motions, can even increase work productivity. Ergonomics also improves quality. Awkward working postures can be distracting and uncomfortable for workers. Poorly designed workstations can lead to frustration and employees who do not do their best work. Having good ergonomic practices means workers are comfortable, and productive, being able to deliver their best quality work. Good ergonomics improves employee engagement. When you invest time ensuring your employees are healthy and safe, it will be noticed. When employees feel taken care of by their company and are comfortable doing their job, this will increase morale and reduce staff turnover and absenteeism. Ergonomics also creates a better safety culture. Having healthy employees is your most valuable asset as a business. The accumulation of the 4 previous points will lead your workplace toward better performance from staff as well as help foster a robust safety culture.